Hello, my name is Siddharth Nair, and this is my interview project. I interviewed my father, named Praveen Prakash. He was born in 1972 and grew up around the 70s and 80s. A fun fact is that some of his favorite genre of music is rock, any type of rock. Recently, he's been getting into alternative rock. His career is a software engineer, and he works as he does a lot of computer science and software engineering, but his title is a principal engineer at a startup company. And relating his career to media obviously now we know is very hyped up that software engineering is a great booming field and it makes you a lot of money. And my dad's perspective on that is that he finds it a little strange, but at the same time he also finds himself lucky that he's in such a booming culture, because with all the hype surrounding it, it becomes very hard to stand out in such a field, and he was able to attain a position at a very early time in its development. All right, so this is the table of contents. All right, on to sound recording. So I asked my father a couple things about sound recording. The first of which was how is he able to attain sound recordings, and he said there were many ways. There were obviously cassette players and mixtapes and different types of things, but the majority of these mixtapes and cassette players and all of this sound recording media came in Western format. So there wasn't a lot of. He lived in India, right? So there wasn't a lot of Indian sound recordings at the time, right? And he got a lot of exposure to Western culture, Western music, and such. So then I went on and asked him, what was his parents, my grandparents, what was their reaction to this Western culture? And he told me that his parents at first were always really, or especially the community, the village he came from, was always a bit, there's a lot of pushback towards the Western culture, and especially the hard guitar riffs and things like that, because they viewed it as rebellious, they viewed it as little tasteless, and the same way many people sometimes view rap music as today. For example, I completely enjoy rap music, but some people think it's tasteless, and it was the same thing, or tasteless, and some people think, and back then it was the same thing for Western rock music. And segment two, onto radio. So a couple things I asked him what's his first experience with a radio? He told me his first experience was going over to his grandfather's house, right, and seeing a big radio box, and he saw this dial, and that dial would turn. It was a big dial, and when he turned, he'd see a needle shift over a little bit. And my dad had always told me stories about him breaking apart a lot of things, one of them including radios. So I asked him, was that how you got interested in taking apart radios? And he's like, yes, because whenever that you were at a specific point of the needle, some sort of noise or sound or something would be playing, whether that be music or someone speaking. That'd be someone that'd be some sort of communication that he was wondering back then, is there someone inside of that box? So that sort of led to him breaking them apart and sort of finding the person who's singing, right? Or the person who's speaking. But in reality, it's just very smart engineering and electronics that have been built to replicate sound. He said that he does remember a few educational programs regarding a lot to music, interestingly, where it was dealt towards more focused towards kids, and they would sing along and teach to sing certain classical Indian music to throughout using the radio. So he said that was sort of a 10-minute broadcast that would happen on the radio for kids to listen into. Section 3, cable and TV. So I asked him, what's his first TV, right? What's the first ones he's ever seen, right? And he said that what he remembers was the first TV he had seen was to watch India's first Cricket World Cup. And it was on a small black and white TV that's probably smaller than most of the monitors he said that we have now. And he said it was in 1938, I believe, yes. And finally, the last section, movies. So I asked him, what's his first, I know a couple of his personal stories about movies. So I asked him, what's your first theater experience? What were theater experiences like? And he told me, right, so reiterating some old stories I've heard, theaters were a family experience. I asked him about the first 3D movie he had ever seen. And he said it was very scary, because he said it was a children's movie. I've seen the movie, it is a children's movie. And there are moments where something looks like it's striking at you, right? So, or shooting at you. And it was a little bit of not a horror genre, but a little bit of a spooky element to it. And whenever those happen, people got scared, right? That we barely get engaged by things like 4D, 8D, all these other multi-dimensional experience viewings, correct? So last but not least, I want to thank you for watching.